taking all the fun out of Christmas, you know. Christmas is supposed to be fun and all this. But what I said to her is, well, you know, the kids don't really know any different. They do what you tell them to do, and you pass your values on to them. They're not born thinking, oh, I'm going to have Christmas, I'm going to get. No, those things are taught, and those things are learned. So it is never your way or the highway. It is never her way or the highway, but it is a new way, and that new way is a compromise between you and the mother of your children. That's what a 24/7 dad should be doing. All right. Hello, I'm Bill Jamieson. Welcome to 24/7 Dads. Well, this is our last session. This is session 10. This is the goal of this class. We've started with 1 and now we're on session 10. There are 12 sessions actually in your workbook, but we're only doing 10 because we feel that if we do the 10, that will cover the bulk and the most pertinent material that you need to know. And you can also finish sessions 11 and 12 on your own. They're very short. But let's get started. Today we are dealing with working with mom and co-parenting. Working with mom and co-parenting. So as usual, I have some statements that I want you to fill in on your end. If you don't have your workbook, get a pen and pad and just follow along, and you can sort of write out the question enough so you can identify it later. And also when you get the workbook, it will be easier and quicker to complete the workbook. Okay, so our warm-up question for today is the main issues my children's mother and I have in raising our children together are what? What are the main issues that you and the mother of your children have regarding raising them? Okay, that's the question. Now, I want you to know I responded to this, and as I've said in the past, that I've actually gone to this curriculum and treated as if I were a student as you are. Okay, so I've really had to go through the same questions you're getting now. And I answered this question, or this statement rather, number 1. I said the issues that I have with my children's mother is keeping things tidy and organized, keeping a consistent bedtime, and my attending school activities. Now, the keeping things tidy is on my part. I really like to have things tidy, but having a consistent bedtime is my wife's input. That's what she felt that our children should do, and I went along with it. And then attending school activities, she pushed that more than I did, but I'm glad she did. So she made sure that I was there to attend those important school activities. So I think you can see that there's some compromise going on here, that I really pushed for organization and tidiness, and she pushed for consistency in bedtime and in follow through on the kids' activities. And so that was a balance there. There had to be compromise there had to be compromise in order to get there. And so I think you can see what I'm talking about here, and you can see how cooperating in parenting is so crucial and important. And also in working with mom, it's important that we work together with the mother of our children. My next statement for you is the ways these issues affect our children are. What are the ways that the way you dealt with their mother, your children, are affected by that? What are some ways that your children were affected by how you dealt with their mother and how you co-parent? Well, I wrote for this one, I said, some of my children take after me by way of housekeeping, and others do not. In other words, some of my kids picked up on the tidiness and some did not, okay? Okay? All of our children know we both value school and education. They all know that we value school and education, and some of them picked up on things that my wife pushed, and some of them picked up on things that I pushed. But it's important that we work together, and I think in the long run, they saw that we were on the same page. And you know, kids will also pit one parent against the other. Once they know the agenda or the interests of one parent, they will pit the other parent against that parent. And so we have to be careful that we don't allow the children to manipulate us, okay? Because they will go back and say, well, Dad said this, or Mom said this, in hopes of influencing you to do something that they want you to do. So you need to be on the same page with their mother, and the both of you need to be in agreement as much as possible. And we need to head off any pitting on the part of the children. So now, here is our first category that we're going to take a look at, and that is parenting differences. And I touched on it somewhat, but I want to get a little more into it. Parenting differences. Let me just read the verbiage here, and then we'll discuss it. It says, although differences in parenting styles can create issues between parents, what causes major problems are differences in overall parenting approach. An approach is a way to go about doing a task or solving a problem. All differences in parenting styles can create issues between parents. What causes major problems are the differences in overall parenting approach. An approach is a way to go about doing a task or solving a problem. And obviously, we don't all approach problem solving or doing tasks the same way. So the dad and the mom have to get together on how they're going to do things for the children and before the children. Okay, so when parents have a different way to go about being a parent or parenting, it creates a problem. So here again, we want to make sure we're not creating a problem, but we're actually resolving problems, and we're making a solid front for the children. Okay, the second point I want to make here under this parenting difference is that beliefs, morals, values, okay, those things lead to different approaches. What you believe, your morals, okay, lead to differences. And sometimes it's not a major scandalous thing, but sometimes it can be quite simple, but yet complex, and it can cause problems. Let me give you an example. My wife is from a family who celebrated Christmas in the traditional way with, Santa Claus, and Santa Claus leave presents for the kids and what have you. And so you get up on Christmas morning and see what Santa Claus left you, okay? I came from a family where we didn't do that. And my family emphasized that we needed to know the truth and that there's no such thing as a Santa Claus and that it's a lie. And they didn't want us to grow up, with that lie, so they told us the truth. And so my wife saw that as, you're just taking all the fun out of Christmas, Christmas is supposed to be fun and all this. But what I said to her is, the kids don't really know any different. They do what you tell them to do, and you pass your values on to them. They're not born thinking, I'm going to have Christmas, I'm going to get... No, those things are taught, and those things are learned. So, what's that? Well, we're going to have to do some traditions of our own, okay? We can't just really rely on what you did with your parents and what I did with our parents, but let's come up with something that we both can agree on. After a series of discussions and bouts and what have you, we finally came up with the approach that we were going to tell our children the truth. And the reason why we did it is because we realized that for a lot of people, they associate the fantasy about Santa Claus as a fantasy about Jesus Christ. And as Christians, we wanted our children to know that Jesus is not a fantasy. While Santa Claus is a fantasy, Jesus is not. Now, that may not be important to you, but it was important to us. But I'm using this as a way of saying, as a way of demonstrating, rather, how you can resolve issues of approaching raising your children with your spouse, your wife, or the mother of your children. There are going to be times that you're going to have to compromise, and I think the sooner you do that, the better off the children will be. And I'm just saying that beliefs and values, okay, have a lot to do with how you approach raising your children, or how you approach problems in your family, or resolving issues in your family. Now, the third item I want to discuss with you is the difference I can solve. What are some of the differences that I can resolve or solve? And I see three of them that I would just like to share with you. One is bedtime, okay? My wife and I came to agreement that, well, the kids don't need to be up all times of night. And actually, the younger kids should go to bed earlier than the older kids. And so for the older kids, we had a bedtime, and for the younger kids, we had a bedtime. But that was strictly enforced all the time. And I think it was really good and healthy, because we found out that when our kids didn't get proper sleep, they were more cranky in the mornings, and they were harder to deal with because really they hadn't got enough sleep. And so sleep is very important for growing children. And so we were able to compromise on bedtime, and I agreed with my wife, and so our kids went to bed at a real reasonable early time in the night. Okay, and so the way we resolved this is that I agreed on the time for bed, okay? And we stuck with that time because it was mutually beneficial for everyone. I agreed on it, my wife and I agreed on it, and we saw that as being something mutually beneficial to our family as a whole. And notice what my emphasis is, not on what I wanted to do and not on what she wanted to do, but what was best for our children and our family, okay? The second point about the difference solving is this, is that one of the carrots that I asked for in the negotiation. So I thought that was reasonable, and so I think the children benefited from that, and you'll find today that many of my children really have an emphasis on keeping things clean because they got it from me. Now, there were times when my wife said, well, you are more concerned about the house and the windows and the walls than you are our children. But I really wasn't. But I do have a value of keeping things tidy and organized. So anyway, that was the way we were able to come up with a compromise. Now, I'm asking you, have you resolved issues with the mother of your children? Okay, are you working those things out? Or how do you solve the problem? And I said, I wrote in my workbook, discuss it with the wife, that being organized would help the kids learn to be organized, and agreed to be organized. I said my angle on this was that the reason why I want the kids to be tidy is that it will help them to study, it would help them to manage their lives, and so it would be beneficial to them later on in life. And I really believe that's true. And so I think she can agree with that, even though her tendency is not to do that, okay? And then the third point I want to make about this differences in approach and how to solve them is attending school activities. I agree to attend as many school activities as I possibly could. That was another carrot that my wife insisted on, so I agree with that. Okay, as much as possible, I'm going to be at every school activity. Now, I worked. She was a homeschooler, and so she was there, but she made sure that I participated, and I made sure that I participated in those school activities, those things that they did in school after they left home and went to public school, intermediate school, and high school. I was always there. Okay, so here is the fourth issue that I want to talk about on page 64, and it deals with value the need to change and to listen. Value the need to change and to listen. If you don't believe you need to change anything, you won't make the effort to listen to the need to change. So we all need to listen to the need to change. Nobody has a premium on being stuck, okay? So we all can learn and we can all change. And I think it's there that we really get that compromise that we need, and we get peace in the home as well. And the fifth item here on page 64 is value the other person. We have to value the other person. And that means that we can't be selfish. You know, for the most part, many times we have disagreements and we have stalemates with our partners or our mates because of selfishness. We don't want to give in, or we don't want to show that we're weak, or whatever, however you approach that, but it is counterproductive when you do that. And as soon as you can agree on an approach, it will really make your home much more peaceful, and it certainly is much more beneficial to your children. And so just to sort of dig in this a little bit, it says, if you don't believe that someone else might have a point, you won't listen to what they have to say about a change you need to make. You'll see them as just nagging at you, okay? So you have to be in a mode for change. You have to be willing to change, and you have to come to the conclusion that you don't know it all, and your way may not be the right way. It is never your way or the highway. It is never her way or the highway, but it is a new way, and that new way is a compromise between you and the mother of your children. That's what a 24/7 dad should be doing. Now, I want to switch horses here, and I want to talk about tips to solve parenting differences. How do we solve those parenting differences, okay? And so I want to start, I think I have about maybe 8 items here under this heading. And first we want to look at get in touch with your point of view. The best way for me to understand you is to know what I really believe or think. And, you know, a lot of times we think that I really know what I believe and what I think, and sometimes we may not know what we really believe or think, or why we believe what we believe. Is it really relevant? Is it really what needs to take place at this time? Or is it something you're hanging on to and you don't know why you're hanging on to it? Let me give you an example, and you may have heard this before, but I think it's worth repeating because I think it's a good example. This woman, every Thanksgiving, she made a beautiful ham. And she prepared the ham like her mother prepared the ham. And every Thanksgiving, she would make that ham, and the children, the husband, and all the children would just love that. And so one Thanksgiving, the husband happened to be in the kitchen with his wife, and she was preparing the ham. But he noticed that she cut the butt off the ham, and it was a pretty good piece. She cut it off and she threw it away. And so he says, why did you throw away that good meat? I don't understand that. She says, well, you do love the way I cook, don't you? He said, yes, I do. You make a good ham. She said, well, that's part of it, that's how you do it. And so he said, well, I just can't. I don't see that. I can't believe that. And so they kind of got in a debate about if you really have to do that. And so she decided that she would call her mother and ask her mother why she would always cut off the butt of the ham. And so she called her mother and she said, hey, Mom, I love the way you do ham, and I've always done it that way. My kids and my husband, they really love the ham. But my husband asked me a question today that I guess I hadn't really thought about very much, but I was really following your pattern, your recipe. And so I want to know, why did you cut the butt off the ham when you cook? Every time you cook the ham, you cut the butt off. Why is that? And you know what her mother told her? Because the pan was too small. I wanted to get the ham in the pan, so I cut the end off so that it would fit in there. Now, look at that, okay? The mother was following her mother, okay? In doing something that was of value to do it, and everybody loved the way she did it, but she didn't have to cut off the butt of the ham because she could have got a bigger pan. As far as that is concerned, her mother could have done the same, but her mother may have had a financial reason why she didn't do that, or she just wanted to keep that pan. But my point is that this woman had not thought very much about that value she had about cooking the ham. And by having this conversation with her husband, she was able to come to terms and realize, I don't have to do that. Okay, we can eat that. We don't have to throw it away. And that's what I mean. But she would not have come to that conclusion had they not had the discussion, and had she not been willing to examine her value concerning cooking the ham. And so that's what I'm saying to you, is that we have to be willing to examine what we really believe and why we believe it, okay? And then the second point here I want to point out to you is that we need to listen to Mom's point of view, okay? You really need to think about an issue from Mom's perspective. So in this case, the husband, he did try to reason with Mom. Why do you do that? And he was really willing to back off because she didn't give him an answer that he really liked, but he loves the way she cooked the ham. So he was willing to back off and make a compromise. But what that forced her to do is to take a look at what she believed herself. But the husband, in this case, really approached the situation from his wife's point of view. And you will always get better understanding when you try to understand something from the other person's perspective or the other person's point of view. Okay? The third point I want to point out here is that know that Mom's view is as important as your view. Know that your mother of your children's point of view is just as valid as yours, okay? But when you both examine an issue, you can come to terms, you can come to a better understanding, and you can make adjustments in what you want to do because you have a better handle on it. And oftentimes we bring things to the table and we don't even know why we brought them, okay? The fourth point I want to make here is that you want to walk in her shoes, or at least look at the shoes, okay, and understand life from her shoe point of view, from how she's walking. Why does she say what she said? Why is she doing what she's doing? Okay, that will give us a better understanding of why our spouse or our wife or the mother of our children may do things a certain way, okay? And then the fifth point I want to make is that you want to use these ground rules. Let me just go through these ground rules for really understanding your partner and coming to agreement. The first thing you want to do is you really can call a meeting with your wife. Say, hey, can we sit down and talk for a few minutes? 15 minutes, no more than 30. And then you want to don't attack one another. Don't attack the other person. Don't say, you know you did this and you, but rather talk about it. Deal with you. I have some issues, or I don't understand why, okay? Put the onus on you and not on the other person. Now, why do you do that? Because if you start accusing the other person of something, they're automatically going to get defensive, and you don't want them to be defensive because they will stop listening and you won't get anywhere with that. And the third thing you want to do is not to call names and blame. You don't want to call people out of the name. You don't want to say they're stupid or whatever. Stay away from those kinds of things. The fourth thing you want to do is stick to the subject matter. Don't bring up old sores. Don't bring up things in the past, especially if they're not relevant to what is going on today. If you're talking about cutting off the butt of the ham, what does that have to do with your wife buying a pair of shoes 2 years ago and using your credit card? Those are two different things. So don't bring something else into play when you're trying to resolve a specific issue. All right? And the next thing you want to do is not to linger on things of the past. I think I said that. The next thing you want to do is to keep calm and end your talk, okay, without getting angry. Or if you feel yourself getting angry, stop the conversation. If you feel that you're getting angry, just stop. If you see she's getting angry, back off and stop, because you're not going to get anywhere when people are angry. You know, we do two things when we're angry. We either fight or we flight. No, those two things are going to happen. And so your partner is going to be in a mode to fight or the flight when they get angry. So you see that and you back off. The other and last point I want to make is that you always show respect for the other person and their point of view. You can show respect for a point of view even though you don't agree with that. You can even look at the merits of that particular decision. For instance, if we go back and look at the butt of the ham, you know, I can understand why my wife did what she did, even though I don't think you have to do it. But now I understand. I understand that she had the interest of me and the kids. That's why she did that, not because she really tried to upset me or she wanted to ensure that I ate less. That was not the issue. Now I have understanding. But I had to get there, and anger would have kept me away from that kind of understanding. Okay? So we need to be willing to bargain and to strike deals. Be willing to bargain and to strike deals. I've always bargained with my wife, and we've always strike deals. We struck deals. We agreed on things. Okay? And you can always get agreement when you are fair about it. Okay? And there's a thing of fighting fair, and there's a thing of fighting unfairly. So you want to come up with terms that you both can live with. And, you know, if you discuss it long enough and if you're sincere in your approach, you will come to that place of agreement, okay? And so you want to really consider your partner's point of view and allow your partner to consider your point of view. And when you have a chance, explain your point of view, okay? And allow your partner to explain her point of view. Then you come up with a new point of view, okay? And you need to be ready to walk away. Again, if I can make this point, be ready to walk away if you get angry or if she gets angry, because there the negotiation stops when anger is aroused, okay? And so it might take one or two times to do this, okay? It may not happen the first time, but be patient and be willing to deal with it again when you both are calmer, okay? So let's switch now and talk about walking a mile in the mother of your children's shoes, okay? And you know what is required to do that? Is a word that's called empathy. We must learn to be empathetic, okay? And empathy is being able to see another person's thoughts, feelings, and point of view. So empathy will get you a lot in coming to terms with a difference, okay? Empathy. When I used to negotiate settlements among people, that's what I would look for. I would look for a place of empathy and a place of interest. And whenever I found the interests of both parties, I was able to bring them together on those points, on their interests and on their points of empathy. Okay, if I could get them to empathize, if I could get them to emphasize, and if I knew their point, what they really was concerned about, then I was able to resolve the issue among them. And I was successful on many occasions of bringing people to an agreement. And that is called negotiation. And so empathy is a good tool for negotiation. Okay? The second thing I want to point out here is that the mother of my children sees me as what? How do you think the mother of your children sees you? How do you think the mother of your children see you? That is my question to you at this point in our discussion. And I wrote in my book that the mother of my children see me as a very good dad. She sees me as a very good dad. Now, she may disagree with that, but that's what I see. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, okay? And so I have some categories here under this particular question. And if you look at it on page 65, there are what? 5 positions here. One is very good, one is good, one is okay, another is bad, and the last one is very bad. And I circled very good. I believe that my wife sees me as a very good dad, okay? Now, that doesn't mean I can't improve. That doesn't mean I haven't made mistakes, but I think she knows my heart, and she knows that I have tried, okay? So, the next question I have for you, actually, it's a statement I would like for you to fill in the blank on. She sees me this way because. Why does my wife see me this way? Why does the mother of my children see me the way she sees me? Okay, I wrote, I have been good to her and our children. Oh, that's a good reason. I've been good to her and my children. Now, what do I mean by I've been good to her and my children? I've always shared all of my resources with her. I never took money and went out and did things on my own and went out and had a good time on the town or squandered money. I always took care of the family. There was always food on the table. The lights were always on, the telephone working. Everything was there. Maintenance done around the house. I've done that, okay? So I believe that in her eyes makes me a pretty good dad, okay? Now, I'm not bragging on myself. There's a lot of things I could have done better. And you can ask my kids and my wife that. But overall, that's where my heart is. And I believe that I've tried to do that. And so you can evaluate yourself based on how you fare with that particular question. Okay, and then on page 66, I have another question for you. It says 3 things I can do to better see her point of view. What are 3 things you can do to better see your spouse's or the mother of your children's point of view? I wrote, listen to her point of view. That was number 1. And number 2, agreement or agree on mutual goals. I think we need to agree on mutual goals, things that will be beneficial to her and me and the children. And 4thly, compromise, give and take from both sides of the points of view, okay? So you want to give and take, Lord God, right to You want to give and take to reach an agreement. Compromise by give or take to reach an agreement. Okay? Then three things I can do to try to change her point of view are what? What are those three things can you do to change her point of view? Now listen to this. I wrote, have her to examine her point of view. And that's what I dealt with early on with the woman and the ham. She had to examine her point of view, her reference points, and she was able to change because she had never really examined them before. Okay? And then the third thing you want to do is entertain what would be mutually good for both of you. Just entertain the idea of what would be mutually good for you. Okay? And then finally, you must be the first to compromise. Be the first to compromise. Be the first to encourage. Be the first to say, I'm okay with that, or I'm okay with you, or apologize. You know, one of the things that I've always done, and I believe that it is my responsibility, is even when I thought my wife was wrong about something, and I knew that she had a real bulldog hope to it, and she wouldn't let go, she didn't see what I said, what I saw at the time. Many times I would apologize to her first, knowing that she should be apologizing to me. But what I was doing, I was demonstrating what I wanted her to do. And she knew, intuitively, she knew that she was wrong or that I had a better point of view. But pride got in there, and I assisted her by saying, oh, babe, if I hurt your feelings, please forgive me. Or if I did something wrong, or forgive me for how I raised my voice or whatever. What am I doing? I'm the first to encourage. I'm the first to forgive. I'm the first to set the stage for a calm relationship. And it really works. Oh, it works. Okay? And so I would encourage you to do that. Okay? All right. So let's look at our chart that you have on page 67. It talks about I'm okay and she's okay. Okay? I'm okay and she's okay. And they are about maybe, they're just like a page full of questions that, or statements, if you will, having to do with you and her. And what they have done here, they've laid this out, okay, on a scale of 1 to 5. When you answer the question or the statement as how you see it and how you think your wife sees it. For instance, the first question or statement is made, takes time with the children. Okay, my response on a scale of 1 to 5 is 4. What I think my wife would do or does on a scale of 1 to 5 is a 5. So I said I circle 4 for me and a 5 for her, all the way down that sheet, and you should have it there. But if you don't have the sheet, you can just go along. When I call these different statements, or when I ask the question, just respond to it. Just get a sheet of paper and mark down on one side me and mark down on the other side her. And then when I make a statement, you just sort of jot it down or just respond to it, okay? So the second statement I want to make here, and you can rate yourself and her, is listens to the children. Do you listen to the children? And how would you rate yourself? Or how would you rate her? I rated myself a 4, and I rated her a 5, okay? And the next one is respect the children's views. I rated myself a 5 and her a 4. I think that I tend to respect their views a little more than my wife. Enjoys playing with the children. I rated myself a 4 and her a 5. Enjoys the rules. I rated myself a 5 and her a 5, okay? Is good with discipline, 5, okay? Comfort the children when needed. I rated myself a 5 and I rated her a 4, okay? And that depends on what it is. If they got hurt, physical hurt, I think she would be maybe a 5 and I might be a 4. But if it's dealing with their feelings in terms of of emotional things, I think that I might be a 5 and her a 4. Okay, and so is a good role model. I gave both of us 5s, okay? Respect the other parent in front of the children. I gave us both 5s. Has the children's respect. I gave us both 5, okay? Praises the children. I gave us both 5. Shows anger in healthy ways. I gave us both 5. Our kids know we fight sometimes. They know that we don't agree, but it is done in a healthy way. They know that we love each other, okay? Okay, give healthy touch to the children, hugs and kisses. I gave myself a 4 and her a 5, okay? Tells the children to take healthy risk. I gave myself a 5 and I gave her a 3. I'm a much more of a risk taker than my wife is, okay? Builds self-worth in the children. I gave myself a 5 and her a 4. Okay, so that's a good way to evaluate how you see yourself working with your wife, cooperating with your wife, if you will, and it's a good feedback mechanism for you. So when you get the book, please go through that exercise. I think it would be beneficial for you, and it will give you some insight into where your relationship is. Okay, now I want to talk about doing things for the sake of the children. I want to give some tips for that. Doing things for the sake of the kids. And the first thing is that your children will be better in life if they have the support of you and their mother, okay? Your children will have less stress if you and their mother value each other. Don't talk bad about their mother in front of the children, okay? Don't talk with or confide in the children about problems you have with their mother. Don't confide or talk to the children about confidential things that you should have with their mother. Tell your children often that they should love and respect their mother. I always want my children to love and respect their mother, and she does the same for me. I really believe she has my back, and she will make sure that my children respect me, and I will make sure that our children respect her. Okay. Tell your children that you love them even when you and their mother have problems with each other. That's so important. Just because you have a fallout with the mother, don't take it out on the kids or make them feel that they are responsible, because believe me or not, they will feel responsible. And that's one of the problems that many children have with divorce and broken relationships between their father and their mother, is that they take the blame. They see themselves as being responsible. So you want to make sure, you want to convey that to them. And I think that will be a comfort level to them as well. Never tell your children that they caused the problem between you and their mother. Agree with the mother of your children on how you will discipline the children. Always agree on discipline, okay? And here again, my wife and I came to terms with that. We came to agreement as to how we would discipline our children. And then lastly, not leastly, don't break an agreement between you and the mother of your children without the other person's consent. In other words, if you and the mother of your children have agreed on something, don't go to them and say, well, we're going to change this and do this differently. What that says to the children is that you don't respect their mother, and what the mother had to say is not important, or her position is not important. So what you should do is contact the mother, or at least get the mother together in front of them, negotiate on what the change should be, or if there need to be a change. But don't agree with the children to change something that you have agreed in prior to, you have an agreement prior to with their mother about. Okay? So that really sort of brings us to the end of this session. This is one of our longer sessions. But as customary, I want to remind you of the checklist. There are things there that you can do daily, weekly, and monthly to help in your relating to the mother of your children and cooperating with the mother of your children, okay, and being a good parent, okay. So that's really what this is all about. It is really about you and I being 24/7 dads. And how often are we 24/7 dad? 24/7 a day, every day, 24/7, okay? So we're always on duty as dads, 24/7. All right, very good. So customarily, I have one question for you. During this session, have you learned anything new? Okay? If you have, what is it? Okay? And then on a scale of 0 to 5, how likely are you to implement what you have learned? How likely are you to put it to use in your relationship with the mother of your children? Okay? So that brings us to a conclusion here. I want to thank you for hanging in there and going through every session. It's been a great time to be with you, and I believe that we all are the better for going through this curriculum. I believe that we have covered things that we don't normally talk about, but I think that these things are very pertinent. I think these things will help us in our relationships with the mother of our children, or our wives, or our spouses, or however the arrangement is. I believe that we will really get a better handle on resolving issues and having a calmer relationship with the mother of our children and with our children. And again, thank you for participating. And this is the conclusion of the 24/7 Dad class. It's been a joy to be with you. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.